Eller, author of Dragon in the Sky, Prophecies from the Stars. Ann Eller has had a diverse and expansive history as an elementary school teacher, OB/GYN nurse practitioner, GYN surgical nurse, Medivac nurse for the Peace Corps, White House volunteer, world traveler, and secretary to the renowned astrophysicist Dr. J. Allen Hynek, and has had her own extraordinary experiences with alien visitors. In her book, Dragon in the Sky, Prophecies from the Stars, she tells of her astonishing experiences, her message from the stars, and her appeal to all for higher consciousness and UFO disclosure. Her personal philosophy is that we are here to realize our passions and dreams, and in so doing, we are naturally following the path back to the source of all creation. She is the mother of 2 and grandmother of 3, and currently resides in Sedona, Arizona. And she is our guest tonight. Everybody, please welcome Ann Eller. Good evening, Ann. How are you? And welcome back to Late Night in the Midlands.
Thank you, Michael. Good to be here.
Oh, it is great to have you back. It's been a little while.
When was it?
Oh, I'm going to say I think it was back in August.
You know, it seems like it was a couple of weeks ago. Time has really speeded up, I think.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think there's a lot of people out there that would agree with you on that. It does seem like it's speeding up. I thought it was because I was getting older. Maybe that's not it.
Well, I think that's part of it for all of us, but I think it's definitely speeding up, actually. It's actually happening. I mean, it's incredible. You get up in the morning, and the next thing you know, you're getting ready to go to bed again. It just seems like it's the days are just ticking off.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. That's definitely how it feels. I mean, especially in this line of work. You know, you
sure.
Just work. Before you know it, the sun's gone back down, and yeah, crazy. So, Ann, if you would, we have new listeners as well as a lot of our past listeners here, so we'll kind of take it from scratch here just a little bit.
Okay.
And if you would, first tell us about your book, Dragon in the Sky, and where our listeners can get their hands on it.
Well, you can go to the website, www.anneller, ANNELLER.com. You can order it there through the publisher or through Amazon, and you can also get it at Borders or where else is it? Can't even think of the name of it right now, but it's there. Anyway, I have a new cover. It's a lot more dramatic than the original cover. This dragon that's on the cover is a very ferocious-looking guy. Mm-hmm. And the new cover is because I have a new publisher, Paul Tice, from the Book Tree in San Diego. And Paul has done several of Zecharia Sitchin's books. In fact, he actually traveled with Zecharia Sitchin for 3 years and was his photographer while he went through a lot of his Sumerian investigations. So I'm really pleased about that. And the book itself is, it takes 3 different tacks. One is, the first part of it is my time with Dr. J. Allen Hynek in UFO research. He was known as the father of UFO research. And so that was getting together with him, meeting with him, and what I learned when I was there. And then the middle part of the book is about my experience with the aliens. I call them the Sisterhood of Light. They were all female, interdimensional, extraterrestrial, beautiful, elegant beings. And it was quite an experience in Laramie, Wyoming. And then the last part of the book is about the prophecy, what I have been shown and what I have learned that is coming, that's on our doorstep right now. And that's the message that I think, besides the fact of letting everybody know that aliens are real and they are here, and they've always been here. But and if they wanted to eat us for dinner, they would have done it a long time ago.
No, I agree.
These beings are very highly elevated beings, and there's no reason for us to have any fear. The beings that we need to fear are those that are in our government and our military at the present time. Because
you're preaching to the choir.
You know, I've been reading all day long about these horrendous things that are happening, and all of the cover-up that has taken place, and you know, all of the assassinations that have taken place over the years, because for whistleblowers, you know, who've tried to come out and tell what's really going on. It's you know, this isn't a very nice world that we're living in. And this third dimension we should be ready to chuck right about now. And we're being given that opportunity to chuck it. We're on our way to the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension. But there's some spiritual work that we need to do to help us get there. So that's basically the book, and I've been doing a lot of research and a lot of following along with all the information we're getting on Planet X. Nibiru. Mm-hmm. It's also known as the Destroyer, the Red Star, Wormwood, and the Dragon.
Well, it's definitely earned its name, the Destroyer, let me tell you, from what I've heard and seen with Planet X. I've talked to some astrologers, not astrologers, but archaeologists, rather, like Michael Cremo. And he says that, you know, there's evidence that life has been wiped off this planet many times in the past.
Yes, that's true. In fact, one of the other passages when Planet X came by happened when Moses was taking the Jews out of Israel, or out of Egypt. And the time before that was when Noah and built his ark and had the great flood. And each time it comes around, and that's about every 3,600 and some years, each time it comes around, it comes at a different angle and a different distance from the earth, so that sometimes the passages are not nearly as severe, and sometimes they're more severe. And this one is being projected as being a very severe one because it's coming very close, and the angle at which it's coming, it's going to be quite severe. When it passes the Earth, it's going to be about 14 million miles away. And that sounds like a lot, but when you're talking about these huge, massive cosmic bodies, it really isn't. This planet, Nibiru, is four times the diameter of the Earth.
And it will cause quite a gravitational pull when it goes by.
And it's doing it right now. This gravitational push and pull, this electromagnetic ping-pong game that's being played right now between Planet X and the Earth is causing all of this unusual weather. And this unusual weather is happening all over the globe.
Did it stall our Gulf Stream, too?
Oh, yeah. The Gulf Stream is way out of whack. Now, the magnetosphere is way out of whack. I never knew how to read a magnetosphere, but it has all these strings. It looks like it has all these strings coming off of it being blown by a fan so that they stretch straight out behind the Earth. And that's what it looks like when it's in a normal state. But what it's looking like now is every one of those little strings is just a jumbled mass, all intertwined with each other. And when that happens, that is also an indication of a magnetic change in the pole shift, magnetic pole shift. So when all of this happens, it bodes not well for the planet because there are going to be massive earthquakes. already the large tectonic plates have started moving, and we're what we consider, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the pole shift, we're now at a 7, the beginning of a 7.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and
I've seen pictures of Africa, and it shows that it's literally splitting.
it is. And Africa is going to roll. It's going to roll to the, it's the opposite way that the South America is going to roll. So I'm getting my east and my west mixed up, but I think South America is rolling to the west. The top of it is, let me start at the beginning of that.
Okay.
Because when the 7 started, which was at the end of December, Indonesia started sinking. What happened was that the Indo-Australia plate started tipping, and that's tipping Indonesia down. All the flooding that's happening in Indonesia, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people are being evacuated and relocated. They've lost villages all along the coastline of all of those islands in Indonesia. But it is sinking, and then there's a folding, a trench in the Pacific that's going to fold, which is going to allow South America to roll, and that's going to roll to the west. So the top of South America, around Colombia, is going to pull to the west, and that could move a good 250 miles. And as it moves with those tectonic plates going down, it's going to take the Caribbean down. It's going to take Central America with it. Panama, right at the present time, is flooding. Panama City, it's been incredible. And we're not getting any of this information in the news.
No, we're not.
No, we're getting this information from people. There's a network, and people who are living in these countries are giving us the real scoop, because our government does not want us to know what's happening. Our mainstream media will never tell us the truth. So you have to go to these underground sources to get the information.
Now, does the mainstream media know the truth? I mean, I'm sure the top-notch do, but, I mean, as far as the reporters, if they did try to cover this, they'd be told that they better not, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. They would be gagged. Absolutely. This has been a 27-year cover-up by the governments from all over the world. And why would they keep us from knowing what's going to happen? Well, it gives them time to rip us off all of our money and build these humongous underground caverns and cities and stock them fully with food and water and medications, etc., and have them very well protected. And that's for them. That's for the elites, the higher-ups. They will allow a certain number of citizens that have some kind of a skill that they need, say scientists, electricians, that sort of thing, if they're maybe under 45 years of age. But anybody over that, it's you're on your own.
I don't suppose they're taking any radio host, huh?
Well, you never know. But, no, I don't think so. But so they don't want us to know that they've done all of this and taken care of themselves and taken all the money with them, and that's why we don't have any money. So it's up to us to do what we can do. And we're being told by the Zetas from Zeta Reticuli, who are giving us all this specific information about Planet X, we're being told that we can survive. And actually, if you go, I want to tell you about this website. Everybody has to go on this website.
Okay.
It's called Zeta, Z-E-T-A, Talk, Talk.com. And there are about 6 mirror sites, ZetaTalk2.com, ZetaTalk3.com, and so forth. if you can't get on the main one, because with every passing week, as things are changing on the face of the earth, there are more and more people around the world that are going to this website because it's accurate, it's truth, it's the entire website is an encyclopedia of truth. And so I just encourage everybody to go on that. And then you'll learn on that site that there is another site that you can join called Earth Changes and the Pole Shift. Mm-hmm. And they're keeping you up to date on a daily basis with what's going on around the world. And Nancy Leader of Zeta Talk has a newsletter that comes out once a week that you can sign up for, and it's free, and it's all the latest of what's happening. And everybody should be paying attention to it now. And I do think that fairly soon...
Ann, could you please hold that thought? We
Sure.
need to take a station break, and then we'll come back, and I want to pick Late Night in the Midlands. So, okay, Ann, we're back.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
We were talking about Nancy Leader and the newsletter that she has, so just go on the website and sign up for that. Also on that website, there's a section that's called Safe Locations. And you can look up where you're living now, and you can find out if it's a safe location or not. And it's very, very valuable. But getting back to what's happening right now, the 7 of 10, we were talking about the Pacific folding, mm-hmm. and South America is going to roll, and as it does, it's going to sort of skew around so that Brazil, that hump of Brazil, is on the top rather than, let's see, it would be, what's up there now, Colombia? Brazil would be up on the top, and or at least further north, and that's where the new North Pole is going to be.
Oh, wow.
Right off of Brazil. And then the new South Pole is going to be off of the tip of India. And India will be totally underwater, as will probably half of Australia and some other places. But after South America rolls, then Africa is going to roll. And as you said, Africa is beginning to split in two right now. That's going to take the bottom of the Mediterranean down. So pretty much all of the Mediterranean islands are going to go under. Mm-hmm. And then what happens are the great quakes in Japan are going to start. And that's our clue. Because once that happens, shortly after that, the new Madrid fault in the United States goes.
And won't that split the United States in half as well?
Yes, it will. And it goes from, like, New Orleans up to the Great Lakes, and then it cuts over to the St. Lawrence Seaway. And that's the Mississippi, in some places, will be 100 miles wider than it is now. So it's definitely going to be an inland sea and going to split the country in half. And when that happens, we're going to feel it. I don't care where you're living in the United States, you're going to feel it. And there's going to be tremendous devastation all along that line when it goes. Those are going to be very horrendous earthquakes, and FEMA is now preparing for that to happen.
Is that what all the FEMA camps could possibly be for?
Yeah, that's part of it, yes. Mm-hmm. Those FEMA camps and all of those liners of the coffins that they
survivors.
have stocked up. And they're also, it's rumored that they're buying up all of the freeze-dried food to have on hand for refugees after this happens.
Oh, how thoughtful.
Yeah, right. Oh, gosh. And so after the Madrid fault makes its adjustment, then there's going to be a tearing in the North Atlantic Rift, and with a European tsunami. The tsunami is going to hit Europe, and it's going to do a lot of damage. So the people in Europe that know about this have started moving inland already. Because we don't know how fast this is going to take place. At some point, it's going to be like dominoes.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just at the beginning of the 7 now, and it's been about a month that we're into it. But Indonesia has already dropped, parts of Indonesia has already dropped 44 feet. So there's a great deal of it that's underwater right now that we're not hearing about. We've been hearing about those biblical floods in Queensland in Australia,
mm-hmm.
because this is the first time that's happened in Australia. It has nothing to do with the rains. They didn't have the rains that they were talking about. It was actually the land that's dropping, and that's seawater that's coming in. And then as these large tectonic plates undulate, it tips the land up so that the seawater that it has taken on stays there and doesn't drain back out into the ocean. So it's going to be interesting, to say the least.
I think it's already become interesting, and if anybody's listening from Australia, and you can tell us what that water's like, I'd definitely like to hear from you. We did get a caller from Australia a couple weeks ago who was reporting in from the floods, and
good.
Yeah, it was pretty dramatic. I'll
yes.
tell you,
it is dramatic, and you just don't hear about it. We need to be in touch with people in these countries. We need to find out what they're experiencing and how they're handling it. Also, the Philippines, same thing is happening with the Philippines. Around the edges of Thailand are now also sinking. Pakistan, part of Pakistan has sunk already. They have an inland lake now that they never had before. They took this water on, and it is not draining out. So it's going to be interesting, to say the least.
So do you feel then that 2012 is just a distraction, and that all of this is going to come to an head before December 21st, 2012?
Well, I think when 2012 was predicted, which was a long time ago, mm-hmm. It was sort of a general. Looks like, seems to be, might be around this time, 2012. I think it was sort of a marker, but I think it could be any time between now and 2012. I really do not think it's going to go beyond 2012. I think my own personal feeling about this, and it's just a gut feeling that I have, is that we probably only have about 18 months left, max. And that doesn't take us quite, that doesn't take us quite to December of 2012, I don't think. But
no, I don't think so.
The Zetas are not allowed to tell us exactly when the pole shift is going to happen, but they can give us an indication as to markers that are going to happen along the way, and we will be able to tell when the final weeks arrive, and I'll give you that in just a minute here. Okay. I had another thought I wanted to tell you here. I forgot now what it was. Anyway, I'll go ahead and give you those final things then. In the last weeks, this is going to be, say the last 7 weeks, it starts out with 9 days of a very severe wobble in the earth. Now, right now, we're bobbling back and forth, and we are wobbling. And you can tell that. You can prove that. Just go out. Just start paying attention to where the moon comes up and where the sun comes up. You'll see it's at different places, different times. Keep track of it. But at some point...
It's funny you mentioned that, Ann, because I was just talking to Autumn, who was my girlfriend, about this very thing. And it's, it seems like when I was a kid, I don't remember seeing the moon day and night. And now it seems like I do, and you're right, it is in different places, but go ahead.
and you will see it at night, and it'll still be there in the daytime when you get up. And if you'll watch, if you know where the constellations are, if you're familiar with those, just start paying attention to those. I looked out the other night, and my God, the Big Dipper was not where it was supposed to be. So you can prove to yourself that the Earth is bobbling and wobbling, and it's because of Planet X coming in this ping pong game that's going on. There are two other planetary bodies that are involved here, but that's another whole story. Venus and the dark twin, Earth's dark twin, which is usually behind us, so we can't see it. Is caught right now with the Earth in sort of a cup, and we're getting bashed and bobbled by all of these particles, the hosing of particles that's coming from the North Pole of Planet X. And this is why there's going to be so much chaos. Eventually, as Planet X comes closer, those two planets will be able to escape out of the cup and get away, so that there won't be quite as much friction. But at that point, Planet X just gloms onto the Earth and just has it in its claw. So that's when the real wobbling and bobbling takes effect, and that's at the beginning of these last 7 weeks. That's the 9 days of the severe wobble. And at that point, Planet X will draw closer in to the Earth, and at that point, everybody on the planet will be able to see it. There won't be any question in anybody's mind as to what's happening, because it'll be there, and it'll be at least as large as a big full moon.
You know, and it wasn't too long ago, I seen a piece that was a story that was released by NASA themselves. I think it was maybe just a couple months ago, but that they had discovered a dwarf star behind the sun. They said, oh, it's always been there, and it's in orbit with the sun. And I'm thinking, is that them preparing us for this dwarf star in the sky? Well,
yeah, we're hearing a lot of things from NASA, and most of it is disinformation.
Well, they did call it a brown dwarf star, so that's why I said I couldn't believe that they actually used those words, but they did.
Yeah. Right, currently, Planet X is not behind the sun. Currently, it's in front of the sun. It's in between the sun and us.
Oh,
so they would like for you to believe it's on the other side of the sun.
And they just said on the news tonight that they've now been able to take pictures of the back of the sun.
Oh, yes, I saw that.
Is that what they're going to show us now, the back of the sun?
Well, now they're showing us the back of the sun. You know, they put the telescope down in the South Pole back in 1983. IRIS, the infrared astronomical satellite, and that was down in the South Pole, and that's when they first spotted it and started tracking it, was in 1983. So they've known they've been watching it for 27 years, and it was first seen without a telescope in 2003. And actually we have pictures of it. They're coming in from all over the world. Some of the best pictures are coming in from Europe, Norway, and places like that. And it's incredible. There's just no question. You can see it. It's right there.
You know what the shame is? A lot of people, they see these pictures and they don't want to believe it. It's, no, they fixed that up. They did this. That was this or that was that. They've got an excuse for everything.
Well, you know, there are going to be some people that are not going to be able to handle this information. They're not going to be able to accept it. And we have to allow that they can find some excuse. They can find some reason to rationalize it away. Otherwise, they're going to go crazy if they can't handle the information. And there will be a number of people who won't be able to handle it. So we have to be a little gentle with those people that are just going to poo-poo the whole thing. But I would encourage them to at least educate themselves and at least try and, if you want to survive, get into a safe location. Let me just finish up the last 7 weeks here,
okay.
and then we'll go to what we can do to survive.
Yes, okay.
Well, after the severe wobble of the 9 days, then we have about 4.5 days of a lean to the left. The planet is actually, it bobbles over to the left now, but it's going to lean more drastically at that point. Then there's about 2.5 days of progression towards the 3 days of darkness. We are actually going to experience 3 days of darkness. And this is when the planet is tipping way back away from Planet X. And so if we're tipping away from Planet X, that means that we're tipping away from the sun, so that the whole northern hemisphere will not be in the sight of the sun. And that's going to be for 3 days. Of course, the southern hemisphere will have 3 days of all light. So when you get to the 3 days of darkness, you know that there are probably only about maybe 3-4 weeks left before the shift. Then after the darkness, we're going to have 6 days when the sun is going to come up in the west. And then about 18 days where the planet is going to slow its rotation. And it will slow to the point, like a top, when you're spinning a top,
yes,
and you let it run down, and you know how it wobbles, and gets
violent, yes.
It slowly goes down, yeah, and it gyrations, all kinds of gyrations, and then it's going to fall over on its side. It's literally going to fall over on its side. And I have seen this. I have seen this in a dream. It's quite dramatic, and the oceans just slosh out into space when this happens, and then they slosh back across the planet again. It's hard to believe that anybody would survive that, but they are telling us that we can. So after that, then it will right itself. The planet will come back up, will right itself back up, and at this point we'll have the new poles. We'll have the new North Pole and South Pole. And then there'll be a lot of turbulence on the planet for some time afterwards, till it settles down after all of this.
Now, when Earth goes through this cycle, then that oil change is actually good for the next 3,600 years, right?
That's right, 3,600 and some years, before they have to worry about it again. And you know what? It's so hard to predict the time because the planet is not coming at a steady speed. It's coming in sort of a retrograde motion, and sometimes it speeds up and sometimes it slows down. So it's really hard to determine. But at some point when it's fairly close to us, it really speeds up, and it will pass overhead. It will come over the top. We'll see it coming overhead, and it will pass out of the solar system. Yeah, it's going to be real interesting. But I want to say too that we have our friends from the stars here with us, and we have over 1,000 cultures in spacecraft around the planet.
I have a question then. Aren't they a little ticked off that the powers that be are building little bunks for themselves and leaving everybody else out to hang to dry? Or?
Oh yeah. But everything is going to come out in the wash. I mean, there is going to be justice eventually, because those people that are involved in that and only considering themselves are going to stay in the third dimension. You can't be that way. You have to be a service to other person in order to go through this transformation, go to the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension, which is the other thing that's happening right now along with this. We are going through a spiritual ascension, and all the energy that's hitting the planet is literally changing the cells in our bodies from carbon base to crystalline base. And it's with the crystalline base cells that we'll vibrate at a higher rate of speed, and we can survive in the fourth and fifth dimension. And those dimensions are going to be less gross and more spiritually inclined. Life is going to be easier, live longer, less illness, get along with our neighbors, no war, that sort of thing.
Do the chemtrails tie into this Planet X thing at all?
No, it sure does. The chemtrails, what was the guy called it, a death dump?
Yeah.
The guy that was, what was he? He was the head of the FBI or CIA or something, or he was one of their top people. I can't remember his name right now, but he's made a video, and he says these are nothing but a death dump.
Oh, I've seen that, yes. Okay.
And it's got to stop. And I thought, why has it taken 12 years for somebody of that stature to come forth and say, stop it, we know what you're doing. You're trying to kill us all off. Because these chemtrails, we've been sprayed with these chemtrails for 12 years now. And there's aluminum in them, there's barium, aluminum, barium, and I'm not sure what some of the other things are. But it's going, we're breathing it, and it's going into the ground, it's going into our groundwater, we're drinking it. It's just... It's insanity.
Aren't they worried that that's going to contaminate them as well?
Well, yes, you would think that it was.
You would think, yeah.
Yeah, you would think that they'd be a little concerned about all of it. But it seems they seem to be on this kick of mass genocide. They want to get rid of 80% of the population of the Earth because we're considered bottom feeders.
Mm-hmm.
We're expendable, and all we do is consume. And they're planning on surviving in these underground cities and then coming out when it's all over and the planet has settled down and taking up where they left off, and they're positioning themselves to be in charge of the planet, these elites, the powers that be at the present time.
Well, if that's not enough reason to make sure that we all survive, so when they come out of their little caves, we can kick their butts.
Wouldn't that be a big shockaroo, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the people from the stars are trying to level the playing field a bit for us, giving us this information through the Zetas so that we can survive and we can plan for it now.
We have a break coming up here in just about half a minute. So
okay.
So I didn't want to get into too much of the survival thing at this point yet.
Sure.
So let's take the break. It's going to take us a few minutes. So if you got anything you need to do, you got about 8 minutes to do it. So,
okay.
Okay. So we'll be back in a moment, Ann. So hang on the line.
And you can also get it at Borders or, where else is it? Can't even think of the name of it right now, but it's there. Anyway, I have a new cover. It's a lot more dramatic than the original cover. This dragon that's on the cover is a very ferocious-looking guy. Mm-hmm. And the new cover is because I have a new publisher, Paul Tice, from the Book Tree in San Diego, and Paul has done several of Zecharia Sitchin's books. In fact, he actually traveled with Zecharia Sitchin for 3 years and was his photographer while he went through a lot of his Sumerian investigations. So I'm really pleased about that. And the book itself is, it takes 3 different tacks. One is, the first part of it is my time with Dr. J. Allen Hynek in UFO research. He was known as the father of UFO research. And so that was getting together with him, meeting with him, and what I learned when I was there. And then the middle part of the book is about my experience with the aliens. I call them the Sisterhood of Light. They were all female, interdimensional, extraterrestrial, beautiful, elegant beings. And it was quite an experience in Laramie, Wyoming. And then the last part of the book is about the prophecy, what I have been shown and what I have learned that is coming, that's on our doorstep right now. And that's the message that I think, besides
Eller, author of Dragon in the Sky, Prophecies from the Stars. Ann Eller has had a diverse and expansive history as an elementary school teacher, OB/GYN nurse practitioner, GYN surgical nurse, Medivac nurse for the Peace Corps, White House volunteer, world traveler, and secretary to the renowned astrophysicist Dr. J. Allen Hynek, and has had her own extraordinary experiences with alien visitors. In her book, Dragon in the Sky, Prophecies from the Stars, she tells of her astonishing experiences, her message from the stars, and her appeal to all for higher consciousness and UFO disclosure. Her personal philosophy is that we are here to realize our passions and dreams, and in so doing, we are naturally following the path back to the source of all creation. She is the mother of 2 and grandmother of 3, and currently resides in Sedona, Arizona. And she is our guest tonight. Everybody please welcome Ann Eller. Good evening, Ann. How are you? And welcome back to Late Night in the Midlands.
Thank you, Michael. Good to be here.
Oh, it is great to have you back. It's been a little while.
When was it?
Oh, I'm going to say I think it was back in August.
You know, it seems like it was a couple of weeks ago. Time has really speeded up, I think.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think there's a lot of people out there that would agree with you on that. It does seem like it's speeding up. I thought it was because I was getting older. Maybe that's not it.
Well, I think that's part of it for all of us, but I think it's definitely speeding up, actually. It's actually happening. I mean, it's incredible. You get up in the morning, and the next thing you know, you're getting ready to go to bed again. It just seems like it's the days are just ticking off.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. That's definitely how it feels. I mean, especially in this line of work. You know, you
sure.
Just work. Before you know it, the sun's gone back down, and yeah, crazy. So, Ann, if you would, we have new listeners as well as a lot of our past listeners here, so we'll kind of take it from scratch here just a little bit.
Okay.
And if you would, first tell us about your book, Dragon in the Sky, and where our listeners can get their hands on it.
Well, you can go to the website, www.anneller, ANNELLER.com. You can order it there through the publisher or through Amazon,